The 7 deadly sins, mankind's darkest impulses. Can science crack the mysterious code behind what drives us to sin? The science of sin.
Pride is probably the most important sin of all the sins. If you're going to be a sinner, sin with pride.
It's the deadliest of the deadly sins. The gateway to all other sins. The one that got us tossed out of paradise.
It was pride that sort of set the stage for the fall. You know, pride is the exaltation of self and the failure to recognize that we are not God. That's pride.
Pride means elevating oneself above all others.
The problem with pride is that it focuses totally on self and completely ignores the other. And so a lot of other evil follows from that.
But will science prove that the mother of all sins has been misunderstood?
I think religion got it wrong when it labeled pride as one of the 7 deadly sins.
Sometimes you need to cross the line. I think I've crossed the line, but I also am very pleased with the results.
As pride reveals itself as vanity and inflated self-importance, is lying to ourselves and others an equally destructive form of this sin?
I am terrified every single time I tell the truth about something important to me. Absolutely terrified, really scared.
Self-deception is probably the single most lethal ingredient in sin, because we fool ourselves into thinking that it's okay.
When we are dishonest with ourselves and others, we lose integrity.
Pride, its accomplice, deception. Can science unlock their secrets and deliver us from sin?
People definitely notice me right off the bat, which is my objective. People probably go, wow, that guy's really fit. Wow, that guy spends a lot of time at the gym. Wow, that guy works hard. Wow, that guy's ambitious. Wow, that guy's really frickin' vain. That's cool. I could live with that. And I'll do about 100 curls just to get myself warmed up. I know that to most people, 100 curls would be the entirety of their workout, but I've completely passed what's considered reasonable, and I'm into porn star zone, so this is what's required.
Tevye Heller is an actor, producer, and entrepreneur.
I would consider myself a sinner. I think we're put on this earth for a very short time, and I think we should have a good time while we're here. And who came up with those sins anyway? It's just about looking like this, I guess, until I'm 35, and then 35 for the rest of my life.
Pride says I am the most important person in the world, and everybody else comes second, if not third. So I exalt myself beyond what I am.
Sure, what are you having done today?
I believe I'm having Botox, and I'm having a microdermabrasion, and I'm having a photofacial, and I believe I'm doing a glycolic.
Okay, perfect. You can have a seat.
Pride encompasses so much more than just how you look. Pride covers everything. I think if you don't have any pride, people walk all over you, and you don't really manage your life.
The root of sin is self-worship rather than obedience to God.
Great.
It's actually a form of idolatry, too. I worship something other than God. I worship my success. I worship my happiness. I worship my self-fulfillment. Rather than say, God placed me here for a reason, and I need to devote myself to fulfilling my mission and my purpose on earth.
Tevye is on a mission, but one driven by personal ambition.
I am an amazing salesman. I never give up, and I believe in the product. It's never been about being somebody else. It's about being the best me. I've worked really, really hard at creating Tevye. and someone out there is going to buy it.
For Julia Ettinger, the need to be the best version of herself has led to a life of deceit.
I want to control how you treat me. I want to control your reaction to me. I want you to like me. I really do. And in order for me to ensure that, to control that, I have to try to present myself in a context that you will find favorable. I like champagne. I like eating out. I like beautiful things. I have gone into debt in order to facilitate that kind of lifestyle. I'm usually lying to make myself look better than I am, so I'm trying to live up to that persona all the time.
The idea of a persona is something that we do, I think, in terms of survival, and also because we're not brave. If people are brave, they say, well, this is who I am. You must accept me for who I am.
Though most people bend the truth on a daily basis, Julia has elevated lying to an art form.
It's sort of like Tai Chi. If you've seen a Tai Chi master really perform, all they do is some simple, mysterious action that turns all of that energy right back on their aggressor. And telling a good lie is like that. You let the other person do all the work for you. They build a beautiful fabrication that is perfectly tailored to them. Oh, I can't believe I'm talking about this.
She does say things that are a little outrageous, and she says it with such sincerity and enthusiasm that a lot of people fall for it.
But lies are overwhelming Julia. She is told untruths about almost every aspect of her life.
I have lied about how much debt I was in. I have lied about my intention to further that debt. I have lied about parking tickets, traffic tickets, and the status of my car. My lying has affected my girlfriend. We have a joint life together, as one does. But I have plunged us into a large amount of debt without consulting her or even letting her know this was an issue. So I would say my main deception is concealment.
But now, Julia's lies and deception are catching up to her.
The stakes are pretty high. If I continue to behave as a liar in my life, I will lose my long-term relationship. And that would really significantly change my life.
Julia's lies are endangering not only the key relationships in her life, but her core belief of who she is. Montreal-born Tevye Heller believes having a world that revolves around himself is just what is needed to reach his lofty goal of TV stardom. But today, Tevye has come to the bright lights of New York for something else. To find out if science can shed light on why he is driven by his intense pride.
My thought was that he would show up and have narcissistic personality disorder. Someone who thinks that he or she is great, but thinks so at your detriment. If you're having to knock other people down to make yourself feel good, clearly that doesn't work for you as an individual, and it doesn't work for society. So I wasn't looking forward to this meeting with Tevye.
I have a 1 o'clock train into Manhattan, so let's rock and roll, kids.
So you've been told you have excessive pride.
They haven't used that terminology exactly. Does jerk count?
The real question is, how do you feel? Do you feel that you have excessive pride?
I really feel that looks are a tool, and I feel separate. I almost feel like I'm staring at myself, and I feel a little bit like an imposter. But I've also come to realize that being handsome is a strategy because it opens up doors for you that otherwise would not be available.
Here at the Cognitive Neuroimaging Lab at Montclair University, Dr. Julian Paul Keenan's groundbreaking research investigates how our brains create pride.
Today we're going to take a look at your brain through a technique known as transcranial magnetic stimulation. So the first thing I'll do is put a swimming cap on you. So that looks good. If you can just put these earplugs in, that would be appreciated. One of the things we're able to do in the last 10, 15 years is scientifically manipulate brain areas. So we can speed up particular areas of the brain, we can slow them down, or we can completely shut them off.
The key brain area involved in both pride and deception is called the medial prefrontal cortex.
The medial prefrontal cortex appears to be particularly important for how we actually get along in the world, including how we lie to ourselves. It stops us from making jerks of ourselves. It stops us from saying that inappropriate thing. It stops us from insulting someone, be it by the truth or by deceiving.
To gauge how egotistical Tevye is, how selfish he is, or how willing he is to show contempt for others, he's asked to assign a series of adjectives that represent both positive and negative traits to either himself or his best friend.
Can you feel this at all? That's above motor threshold, so stimulate at 31.
Next, the test is repeated, but this time, his medial prefrontal cortex is zapped with a powerful magnet, essentially knocking this section of the brain out of commission.
When we shut off or slow down the medial prefrontal cortex, what happens is people self-enhance less. They're more honest with themselves, they're more honest with other people. They just deal more with reality than they did with the area working.
What will science reveal about Tevye's pride? Could his pride be so malevolent that he could be classified as having narcissistic personality disorder?
If I'm the greatest creature in the universe, and I'm exalted far above reality, it's awfully hard to admit that I'm an ordinary, schmuck that fails.
Julia Ediger finds it next to impossible to admit she's ordinary.
I can't remember a time when I haven't lied strategically. I started lying at a very young age, as a child. I had to be absolutely perfect, and everything had to be okay. I come from a family of bright people who are intelligent professionals, and I'm expected to be intelligent and capable. And I wanted very much to fit in and live up to my perception of my parents' expectations.
She's the only child. She was expected to be one of the adults from the time she was very small. Her parents probably lived beyond their means. They had to keep up certain appearances. Her mother, she would pretend to be other than she was. I think that's got to have an impact on Julia.
It's shame that really causes a lot of people to lie. This fear of failure, this fear of really being known for who I am.
I lived in a household where everyone was presenting a persona, and I don't necessarily feel that I would have fared very well if I had been honest.
Did a young Julia learn to lie as an instinctive biological coping mechanism?
Most children are telling lies, and children will tell a lie to conceal their transgression out of kind of self-preservation or protection. They don't want to get in trouble, and they need to protect themselves.
At the University of Toronto, Dr. Angela Evans' research reveals that nearly all humans naturally begin lying as very young children. It's even seen as a sign of intelligence for a child to think through the steps of a lie.
We found that 2-year-olds are just starting to tell lies at fairly low rates, and that by 3 years of age, about 50% of children will lie in order to conceal a transgression, and that this increases with age. So by 6 years of age, 90% of children are telling lies to conceal a transgression that they've committed.
While it appears all very young kids lie, at what age does a child learn the true consequences of telling one?
The answers are on the inside of the card. But don't look at that right now, and come get me when you're finished.
They're left alone in the room with a test and the answers to the test. And we ask them not to look at the answers to the test while they're left alone with it. What we found is that leaving them alone in the room with the answers to the test is extremely tempting for them, and majority of children are peeking at the answers to the test.
Before we get started, I should ask you, while I was gone out of the room, did you take a look at any of the answers in the card?
No.
No?
What we found was that, again, majority of the children are telling a lie in order to conceal this transgression.
The first question is, who invented the hairbrush? And you put Jones, which is right. That was actually a really hard question. How did you know the answer to that?
We were just learning about it in school a few days ago.
Okay.
Same with the person who made the telephone.
Okay.
It's important to understand and learn to develop a balance between telling the truth and a lie, and when it's appropriate socially and when it's inappropriate. So this is something that children actually have to learn in terms of social skills.
If we instinctively lie to gain an advantage or to protect ourselves, the good news is most of us grow out of lying by the time we hit our teenage years.
Between 8 and 16 years of age, lie-telling rates to conceal a transgression decrease.
Why is it then that some of us, like Julia, continue to lie for years, even decades, after adolescence? Did the need to protect a fragile self-image drive a young Julia into a pattern of deceit that is now tilting her life out of balance?
Lie-telling is generally seen as morally wrong. But when we think more broadly about lying and the lies that we tell in order to maintain friendships, to protect other people's feelings, these lies can actually be viewed as morally acceptable. They're still viewed as a lie, but it can be seen as a positive thing.
When you think of lying as far as our personalities or our identities, all of us in public have a certain persona, and some of that is very strategic. We've chosen to behave this certain way. Is it really us? Maybe not.
The persona that Tevye Heller wants to create is that of a rich and famous television actor. This driving ambition has put him on a grueling quest for physical perfection. But at what cost?
I am fighting against nature every second of the day. It requires 3.5 hours a day at the gym. This gives me the best chance possible. I've turned my back on chewing. I drink more water than an elephant in a day, and I take about 80 supplements. Creatine, glutamine, HMB, taurine, fat burners, multivitamins, omega-369 supplements, testosterone boosters, estrogen blockers, and 42 grams of protein every 4 hours. And this is the result.
Is Tevye's extreme diet beneficial or harmful?
Yeah.
To find out, he's meeting with registered dietitian Dennis Collier.
I opened my fridge, and I grabbed all the supplements that I take in a day. Some I put in protein shakes, some I mix in juice. I see myself as this ordinary, fat Jewish kid who grew up in the suburbs, and yet I wanted to be that person on television. That person was a million miles away. The reason why I'm doing all of this is because the best-looking people in Hollywood do this, and I want to look like them.
If you keep doing this, chewing one meal per day, and relying on man-made, manufactured, God knows what for your nutrition, I don't see your future health being very promising.
I don't have the luxury of eating all the foods that you do because I don't have the luxury of just being ordinary.
If you do what I say, you'll achieve a great-looking physique and have the benefit of not having your liver explode when you're 40 or 50 years old.
So my understanding of what you just said to me is I should take all of these products, throw them in the garbage, eat a well-balanced meal, 3 meals a day, work out moderately, and I'll achieve my results. Is that what you're saying to me? Because I don't believe you.
I make my body an idol. I worship my body. I look at the mirror 1,000 times a day and take pride in the muscles and everything that I grow, you know. Instead of thanking God for this blessing, I give myself importance. See the way I am.
Sin must, therefore, have some basis in how we consider ourselves.
Thank you so much, Charlene. I really appreciate your help with this.
It also has some basis in the decisions we would make in interacting with others and constructing a certain type of reality that we will live in.
The reality Julia Edgar has constructed is built on deception. What makes manipulating the truth so tempting? Can therapist Ariel Garten use modern science to modify brain pathways and help Julia reject her strategy of lying?
Concerned with the process of changing from...
On a certain level, we're all liars. We lie quite regularly. We lie to ourselves because there are parts of ourselves that would be so painful to see that we wouldn't want to. Do you believe in your own skills and abilities?
I don't know anymore. I'm really good at bravado, but I lack a feeling of solid confidence.
Confidence also comes from a reinforcement of when you do something well. And when you lie and you're only living in a persona, you can't actually do well at anything. Many of us want to see ourselves as amazing and fantastic and beautiful creatures. But it was impossible for her to really believe that she truly was. What if it's just Julia?
Well, that's no good either. I've got to be more than that. I've got to be more. I'm not good enough just the way I am. It's awful to feel like just me is really not on. I've got to have value added. I've got to be extra. I've got to be nicer. I've got to be smarter. I've got to be more interesting.
That's an unbelievable amount of pressure to put on yourself. It's really part of our hard wiring to try to find patterns and to live within them. To change those patterns is really hard because you've been doing them often for 15, 20, or 30 years. And it's even harder when those patterns are set in childhood. And it's even harder than that when those patterns are set at the level of belief.
Science has proven that our brain can be rewired through cognitive behavioral techniques. Ariel is convinced that if Julia can continue therapy, she can eventually control her impulse to lie.
We're actually changing our brain when we go through therapy. We're making new neural pathways, making new habits, and changing ourselves at the greatest, really at the level of belief.
Will revealing the causes behind her lying enable Julia to rewire her brain and overcome the sin of deception? Is pride a positive trait that will help Tevye achieve his goals? Or is it a dark force that will eventually destroy him?
This is my breakfast bar. Could you say 15,000 big ones? And as you could see, I eat a very healthy continental diet. I'm spending $800 a month on my pills and my homoxy fluids and my creatine and my glutamine. And because I take all of this, I'm hyper aware of my nutrition. So I don't eat sugars and I don't eat
The quest to have a movie star physique has led Tevye Heller to adopt a fanatical supplement regime.
Food guide, whether it be the American food.
But has pride blinded him to taking advice that might save his health?
Completely off the mark.
You're saying that all this stuff is necessary to get you to look the way you want to look. But what I'm saying to you is, there's no evidence at all to say that you're right. I talked about all the things that can go wrong: liver disease, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. These are killers. These are known killers. And
if I die, there's one caveat. I'll have reached my ideal weight. So no, I'm not stressed.
Tevye is ignoring the harm pride is causing his body. But Julia Edgar wants to do the opposite. She hopes to defeat her deceptive ways by exposing her lies for everyone to see.
I'm very interested in scars. Because if you wear your scars on your face, you're not lying to anyone about what you've been through. And you can't pretend that everything's been fine. You just can't.
After paying a heavy personal price, Julia is now desperately searching to escape the web of lies she has woven for herself.
I'm strongly motivated to be me. And I don't think that being me means that I'm a liar.
Can Julia's trail of destructive lies ever truly be broken? And despite appearing in this film, one might also ask, are her seemingly genuine emotions real or all for show for the camera? At the University of Buffalo, Dr. Mark Frank is one of the world's leading experts on facial expression and interpersonal deception. He knows all the tricks of a liar's trade.
Most people think they're pretty good at detecting lies, but most people are not. The research shows that most people aren't much better than a guess at detecting whether somebody is lying or not.
Dr. Frank rolls frame by frame through the videotape to detect micro-expressions, brief flashes of emotion that contradict what Julia is saying. The micro-expressions are caused when our primitive inner brain, over which we have little conscious control, sends impulses to the facial muscles. Simultaneously, the motor cortex tries to suppress or mask these signals. This tug of war over control of the face results in an expression of emotion that leaks out, despite efforts to conceal it.
In this particular expression, you see one lip corner sort of being pulled in and together as the side comes up. And this is what we see in the expression of contempt. The emotion doesn't tell us what's triggering it, but it's there, and it's quick. So she probably doesn't want you really to see that. She talks about using her lies to maintain her privacy, to maintain her status, to impress people, to control other people. In fact, she actually uses those words in the interview. You know, use that to control people, to manage people, and to manage their expectations of her.
I know how you feel about rich people. I know how you feel about privilege in this city. And believe me, I understand where you're coming from, but if you knew, would you like to work with me? How would you treat me?
Now, in this particular one, the eyebrows are down, which we often see when people are concentrating. But now, as she talks about it, you see the upper lip come up as I go back and forth over this. And this is what we see in disgust. So something in this particular topic has triggered a disgust reaction in her. We don't know. Is it at herself for misleading? Is it at the interviewer for asking the questions? Is it considering the event that she was being asked about and recalling it? And either way, it triggers it up, and it's fast. I mean, this is less than half a second. It's on and off her face. And she's probably unaware that she even showed it. And it's that fast because you get this conflict, different parts of the brain. The conscious, deliberate part of the brain says, keep it cool, don't show anything. The inner part of the brain doesn't care. The emotion happens, and there it is. It's triggered, out it goes.
But if you knew, would you like to work with me? How would you treat me?
Despite his world expertise, Dr. Frank still cannot categorically determine if Julia is lying about her lying. For in the world of deception, Julia indeed just may be a master. How does she do it? In an attempt to muzzle our emotions when we're lying, our outer brain often hides our lies, even from ourselves.
Self-deception and deception of others really involves very similar brain areas. In fact, it's to the point that they're so similar that I'm not so sure that your brain really knows whether it's lying to somebody else or lying to yourself.
And all those lies add up. Nina Majar is assistant professor at the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto.
From a standard economic perspective, a decision whether to be honest or dishonest is actually like any other decision. It's a trade-off between the costs and the benefits that I get out of my actions.
In today's complex society, there's ample opportunity for small acts of dishonesty, from fudging insurance claims or taxes to petty theft and fraud. These little deceits add up to hundreds of billions of dollars worldwide every year.
We are facing all these situations in our daily lives where we are at least one step removed from feeling really the final consequences of our actions. So when there is a temptation to be dishonest, yes, you know, we will give in a little bit, but not that much so that we can still think positively of ourselves.
Everybody thinks sin starts big. Sin doesn't start big. Sin starts little. Really little. And because sin is that first compromise with what you know is wrong, but you make an excuse. You rationalize it.
Is our brain biologically programmed to deceive not only others, but ourselves?
Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm frickin' hot. But it wasn't always this way. A year ago, I weighed 220 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the hottest new porn star in town.
All of us, when we're in public, at some level, are putting on some little performance, some control of our behavior, where we're not doing everything the moment we want to do it, the moment it comes into us.
We lie to ourselves, and we kid ourselves, and we tell ourselves stories so that we can cope.
But is deceiving others and ourselves about who we are out of pride a coping strategy or a sin?
Is it a good thing for me to see myself as I really am, or is there a benefit for thinking that maybe I'm better than I am?
That is the question that Julian Keenan is seeking while conducting his unique neuroimaging experiments back in New York at Montclair University. Will Dr. Keenan's prognosis find that Tevia's pride is healthy, or in fact a narcissistic personality disorder?
I took a preliminary look at your results, and off the bat, the first thing that comes out is that any adjective that appeared on that screen, you seem to say applied to you. Now, you could interpret that as the world revolves around you, or you're sort of over-interpreting everything as being about you.
Do the results state that I'm egocentric?
Slightly, that you have that slightly egocentric bias, that you're more likely to say things apply to you. But what's interesting about you is it's not just the good things, it's everything. The good, the negative, everything applies to you. What's also interesting, however, is like everybody else that we test in this study, when we knock this area of the brain out, the medial prefrontal cortex, that excessive pride tends to go away, right? That you tend to behave like everybody else does. It humbled you out a little bit, which is a very normal reaction.
Do you have any advice for me going forward?
Well, keep your medial prefrontal cortex. Keep this area of your brain because it's part of what makes you a unique individual.
While Tevye does have a highly self-centered view of himself, he does not have a personality disorder. Tevye's pride is healthy.
Because it's mentioned as a sin, because it's seen in a moral lens, people tend to be very critical of pride. If we were in a world where people weren't confident, you know, erring on the side of overconfident, I think we would see more depression. I think we would see people less happy. I think we would see people being less productive and less likely to take chances.
While science is proving pride does have its upside, the risks to society occur when pride goes one step too far.
People who feel excessively proud and who feel too above other people are more likely to use stereotypes about other people because the other people matter to them less.
Dr. Fisk and her colleague Meena Chakara wanted to find out how stereotypes influence decision-making. The Princeton researchers scanned the brains of subjects while presenting them with a difficult moral choice.
The trolley dilemma is a moral dilemma because it asks people how acceptable it would be to kill one person to save 5 people. Now, in the particular version of the trolley dilemma that we use, you physically have to shove a person off of a bridge to stop a rail car from running over 5 people who are further down the track.
The test focused on how we categorize an individual's status into in-groups, those people who we deem to be like ourselves, and out-groups, individuals we perceive to be of less value. Without any information about the subjects in the scenario, almost 90% of people said they would not kill one person to save 5. The people's perspectives shifted dramatically when the researchers manipulated the status of the subjects.
When we put members of the in-group on the track, and the person you're sacrificing is a member of one of the out-groups, particularly a homeless person or a drug addict, we were able to reverse that 80 to 90%. They were more willing to sacrifice low-status people and to save high-status people.
The brain images revealed that the part of the brain that is home to pride also helps us think about other people as human beings.
This part of the brain, which is called the medial prefrontal cortex, it lights up in particular to people you depend on, you need for something, because you're trying to think about them. They're trying to figure out who this person is and what they want and need and what's their personality. When people see a picture of a homeless person or a drug addict, that part of the brain damps way down. People are just not wanting to think about those kinds of disgusting outgroups in the fully human way. So basically, people are turning off the humanizing part of their brain and their way of making sense of the people who are the lowest on the totem pole, really.
So does our innate tendency to be selfish doom us all? Science has discovered that the remedies to pride and deception are easier than you think. Pride is the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins.
God gave the first 2 human beings a challenge. He said, don't eat from this particular tree. Don't eat this fruit. And when they ate from that tree, they achieved a certain self-awareness that didn't exist before. That self-awareness is the notion of sin. Self-awareness can become so intoxicating and so powerful that I'm no longer aware of God.
Ancient religious teachings seek to protect us from our biology. But can faith really deliver us from the deeper reasons we self-aggrandize, or why we lie and deceive others?
Is the self built upon self-deception? From the contributions of evolutionary psychology and neuroscience, the answer is the self is only self-deception.
I'm not proud anymore of the ability to effectively live a persona. I am not proud that I can tell lies that people believe. I used to feel a sense of accomplishment and that was a worthwhile skill. I do not any longer. I feel like it wastes my time and wastes my life.
While Julia has been looking at her lying as a black and white issue, science proves deception has many shades of gray.
I'm going to ask you to promise to tell me the truth for the next question.
Research has shown that by far the most straightforward way of getting the truth from someone is to simply ask them for it.
Can you promise to tell me the truth?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you peek at the answers to the trivia question as well as gone into the room?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
By simply asking them to make a commitment and a promise to tell the truth, we found that there was a significant decrease in lie-telling behaviors.
And although lying is often a strategy we choose, when and how we lie is tempered by something that religion has been prescribing for centuries.
Moral values need to be imbibed and needs to be internalized. And once they become internalized, there is always this hesitation to cheat. You have an opportunity to cheat and yet you don't cheat. This is what we really want to look for moral education.
If my compulsion to lie and protect myself, if my fear wins, then I will lose my long-term relationship. I will rest in the knowledge that my friends will know why I lost that relationship, and my parents will have been right. I was a deceiver.
Tevye Heller's strategy of pride and self-enhancement is hardwired into his brain. But how does it affect the way he sees himself?
Is pride the ultimate self-deception? It may be. Is pride morally wrong? If there is a morality, perhaps it is wrong. But when I look at my own house, my own friends, or even my own family, pride along with deception actually does serve as something of a practical value.
But amidst the endless hours dedicated to making himself look good, Tevye has become aware that all his self-devotion comes at a cost.
I think I am way too focused on myself. And I realize that there's strife happening all over the world. People are starving in Haiti. Who gives a shit if I have abs? I struggle with that. I know it's stupid, and I know it's vain, and I know it's superficial. So we really blew these out?
Well, I didn't blow them out, okay, but we did some there. I tried to do a little bit of everything for you, okay?
Uh-huh.
Being too oriented toward power and status and pride, it deprives you of the human side of life.
But how can we reverse the dangerous dehumanizing aspects of pride? The answer may surprise you.
Something as simple as asking what this person would like to eat gets them to think about the other person as a human being who has preferences. This simple little shift in perspective when you're thinking about somebody else makes all the other parts of your brain that are involved in, thinking about another person as a full human being come back online again.
Don't touch it, don't rub it for a day.
Got it.
It's very easy to confuse pride and self-confidence.
Thank you. Okay, great. All right.
And they're not one and the same. When it's all about me, there's a problem. When it's all about a higher cause and purpose, I'm confident because I know that God has given me those abilities. That's healthy.
I think it's great to look good and feel good, and of course when you look good, people certainly respond to that. But in a way, I almost feel like it's phony. I look good because of plastic and peels and sanding me down and all sorts of fake stuff. So it's very much an image and a persona. And it actually makes me kind of feel ugly inside. I may look great on the outside, but it certainly doesn't make me feel beautiful on the inside.
Both religion and science concur. Pride and deception are deadly in excess. But in moderate amounts, these sins are necessary for the health of us all.